Hi, my name's Rob Hodgson from the Access Group. I'm on a call today with Paul Brown, CEO of MHI. Hello, Paul.
Hello there, Rob. Yeah, so Paul Brown, founder of MHI. We're a 26-year-old, 27-year-old postal moving logistics company, specialising these days in e-commerce and helping small and medium-sized e-tailers reach the new and emerging markets and the opportunities thereof, keeping the postal optimised at the right price and of course the right delivery rate to meet various retail platforms.
Very good, very good. Well, I can't imagine it's been a quiet time for you over the past few months, with the massive shift to people having to, obviously for obvious reasons, buy everything online. So, in terms of broadly speaking, what's business been like over the past few months?
It's been a bit of a roller coaster, to be honest. We've had some interesting challenges because MHI, Mail Handling International, obviously we specialise in cross-border, and of course a lot of those borders stopped, although people were ordering online. Managing with reduced teams in many of our logistics partners and postal authorities. Mm-hmm. Having said that, our guys work very well to get around a lot of those problems, get them through, keep the expectations managed. Our trackings team have been helping our clients' customer service teams keep them informed as to where the postal packets that they've ordered through the retail platforms have got to. And yeah, I have to say the team have pulled together very well. Obviously, we've had some people working from home, some people working from our facilities and logistics. And of course, the challenges of learning new ways of working like this.
In terms of the actual team morale and what's been going on, I mean, obviously within the logistics sector generally, you can't move, and shifts have sat at home. As a technology business, we were able to shift to home working very, very quickly. In fact, within basically 2 weeks, 2,500 of us went from being in offices a lot of the time to obviously not being in offices. How was that for yourselves? What was that shift like, and how did that impact the team generally?
I think there are two definite cultural bubbles within an organisation that's in logistics. There's obviously the office-based or the white collar, and many of those have been able to work from home. So like our client services teams and nominally sales teams, keeping whilst I'm not sure there's any a lot of new sales going on, keeping existing clients informed and advised. They were obviously able to work from home, and some of them quite used to it. Upgrades of the tech team had to upgrade the firewalls to allow much more VPN access than ever envisaged within our tech plan. Yeah. And of course, the operational teams had to get into working more socially distanced, because we were working all the way through from the very early days. The biggest thing I think is culturally has been people who are in the office or in the factories or in the warehouses are saying, well, I'm here at the coalface. What are you lot at home in your pajamas doing? There's kind of been a liaison that's had to go from a senior management point of view to really keep the operational staff, reassured that the people who are working from home aren't working from home, are actually working. But also, one of the ways we did that is we started from the early days of rotating those team members who were not at risk. So people who were young people who were fit and healthy and didn't have underlying health conditions. And one of those would come into an office team that might normally have had 5 or 6 people, but one person would be the internal liaison. But people just come and knit the teams together and go, yes, could you check that client's material is processing through, that it's been... Because the other thing we had to work with very closely is a number of our clients furloughed. Okay. Their work dropped off a cliff, obviously. But a number of our clients, sales went up, kind of not quite exponentially, but significantly. So of course, you've got to be still in to do their work whilst waiting for the other work. And trucks that were half full are now quarter full, and trucks that were full had to now be reallocated with additional logistics. So the team really did. There was a bit of initial friction that seemed to evolve out. Then I think, like many businesses, there was an element of COVID fatigue. People can only give you 110% for so long. And people start saying, well, am I going to get a holiday? People were missing key days. We had people who are due to get married. We had a couple of Christmas. We've had a couple of company births. Things that would normally have been in celebratory and across the business. These were challenging for people, and that's no different to society as a whole. And I won't pretend it's a bed of roses, but work isn't always a bed of roses, even in normal times. And the most refreshing thing is everyone stopped talking about Brexit.
Well, what's that? Absolutely. Yeah, is that thing still going on? Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say that. I mean, I think in terms of people's nature to adapt. I mean, we've certainly seen that with a lot of our customers, and as obviously in the industry that we're in, and providing software and services to the logistics industry, and specifically, to the e-commerce and online fulfillment industries. Exactly what you've said there. We've absolutely never been as busy. So, are we in a COVID bubble? Yeah, we probably are. So, in terms of the actual communication side of things, you mentioned there about having that person, that go-between between the different people. I mean, obviously, we're on a video call now. This is now the new normal. Something I probably wasn't overly comfortable with at the start of this. Now it's just the norm. How have you tended to? How have you communicated? Has it been lots of emails, or have you made use of video calling and things like that?
There's been a bit of video calling. I have to say the team as a whole, we've got a number of people who work in a semi-rural environment.
Okay.
So we tell them to shut the video off. So the people conference call.
So at least we can hear people. Yeah.
The technology. I mean, we've got phenomenal tech connection here, as you'd expect for a company with. Whilst we're in logistics, IT is at our core, and some of the people who live in just the outlying villages of Bristol. Not talking the depths of Devon or Cornwall here. We are talking. It tells you where the infrastructure hasn't always been there. How we've been communicating, I think there's still quite a lot happening on the phone. I think as conference calls as a whole, they have their place, but there's a bit zoomed out effect.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes actually, whilst you do get maybe some expression from talking to someone, actually a lot of what we do historically has been digital anyway. So if you're dealing with different time zones, so we've got a hub in Chicago, just outside Chicago. We've got an office in Hong Kong. The time zones for those two never coincide, or they do, but at 11 o'clock at night. So we're kind of used to emailing, and that'll be dealt with when I get back to my desk in the morning. So our remote teams are probably, there's no major difference how they're operating. And I think the internal teams, they know when the shift patterns start here, know what they need to get achieved in terms of routings, in terms of collections. And obviously we're always trying to dovetail our e-commerce customers. Everyone wants everything collected within a 2-hour window at the end of their packing day, but to work around what the delivery expectation is. So I think the communication is probably we're in that business initially.
Yeah, makes sense. And I think with the looking forward, it's not going to come as a surprise to anybody that we've probably seen a massive uptick. Lots of other businesses are selling online. Have seen a big uptick. But what do you think moving forward the industry is going to look like, and what do we need to put in place, probably as a collective, as a supplier, as a fulfillment house, to prosper? Is this a general trend? Do you think we are just going to see a short-term bump in this? Is there a general move away from bricks and mortar? And do you think that's there to stay? What does that look like?
Well, I have to say, I think the biggest takeaway from this is something that we'd obviously like to claim has been part of our USP for a number of years, but it's agility. I think those companies that just kind of went, we've got to shut down or we can't move stuff, and weren't thinking. So if you're a mono conduit organization, if you're a bricks and mortar logistics company, so you own your trucks, you own your warehouses, you've got to move stuff. Whereas we're a router or a conduit of mail, so we have multiple postal contracts, multiple courier contracts. We've seen the ability to switch very quickly from postal routes to tracked and courier services. Our monitoring service told us what was being delivered in which countries at which time on which services, and we can go back to clients and say, actually, if it's going to cost you another 50 cents to €1 rather than sit in a warehouse somewhere. So I think actually the agility of routers like MHI, which allow people not to be mono supply chain, really going to be something that the smaller retailers didn't have access to and have now got more access. Our technology, your technology, allows people to make those switching decisions. That's working, that's not working. Because if there's one thing we know, the platform sellers, so the Alibabas, the Amazons, the eBay, they are not being forgiving of delivery time unless orders actually closed. They're saying, run it in my own country, FBA, also fulfilled by Amazon, fulfilled by Zalando. And we, as companies that are servicing the SME sector, need to be agile, and our clients need to very quickly be agile. The tech, it's been interesting seeing some of the carrier choice platforms, and I think I had a quote from one saying that they could look at our client's integration option at the end of August.
Right. Okay.
This was said in, I think it was March or April.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So you've got technology-based business that hasn't got a slot in its sprint of development that is totally out of line with a inverted commas crisis.
Yeah.
So of course, our client goes, well, the route we're currently using is stopped. The mail's just being held at Heathrow. The post, what do you mean we can't use a new supplier because you can't just switch it on the flick of a switch? We've seen the smaller, more disruptor people in that sector going, oh, we can do an integration in 5 days.
Yeah.
Particularly if the integration is with an organisation, we're not unique, but an organisation like us that has in-house tech people. So we don't outsource our tech people, you don't outsource your tech people. And you just not knock heads together, you just say, Fred, talk to Joe, or whatever it might be. And again, I'd say the e-commerce companies that have been able to just go, I'm going to switch tomorrow, it's not like big long contracts that some bigger players will go, you're as good as your last shipment, aren't you? And politics also plays in. I mean, if you look at literally a year and a half ago, Sporting is Great, which was part of BAYS or DIT, I always get the initials of government departments wrong, was telling everybody they were paying people to go on trips to China. China was going to be the new Europe.
Yep.
New and emerging markets. Anyone who's watching politics this week will tell you that China is not the new Europe, and that's not being political. It's just saying that things have changed in the market. And if you geared up your business as an e-tailer to say, I'm going to be reliant on a supply chain from a certain part of the world, tomorrow could not be where you thought it was going to be. So if plans take too long, I think what's great about the internet sales mechanism is it should allow you to be agile. And because of that, I think you then need supply chains that fit into the new way of working.
And I think the other piece we mentioned earlier on, almost in jest of Brexit, I mean, in terms of the big announcements recently from people like Hermes, the Hermes Mega Hub that's looking at being built in and around the Barnsley area, if I remember correctly, 10,000 jobs created. Do you think with Brexit looming, with the whole immigration conversation, are we going to see as an industry a massive lack of shortage, or a shortage of skilled or people in those industries actually being able to fill those roles? Or, with obviously the nature of what's been going on, and probably, what we hopefully won't see, but it's probably quite likely, is mass redundancies in certain sectors. Is there going to be a balance? Are people going to go from there to there and fill those jobs? I mean, in terms of finding people generally in your industry, how have you found? Have you had to recruit or over this period, or do you see yourselves recruiting in the immediate future?
We haven't recruited, but we haven't. We hadn't up until this week. We're just starting interviews. We hadn't recruited. Which not in our plan. We had roles to fill before COVID hit. In a number of different departments within the business. I will be interested to see how it changes. We've just started the process again. Like many businesses, we marked time and thought, well, let's just see what next week holds and then what the week after holds.
Yeah.
We had to. We always have a placement student from the University of the West of England. This year's is fantastic. Next year's looking to be great. We've actually had to defer them starting because I think it's very important. I did a placement when I did my degree back in dim and distant past. I gained a huge amount from it. And I just think it's important that we pay back within we tie up with UE because I'm associated with UE. But basically, we've had to delay that person starting because you can't bring an empty office to do a placement.
No.
And I think part of our recruitment in the white collar side was to say, actually, we can't be bringing people in to not get our culture. So even in software developers, even though someone might be technically competent, you need our culture, and our culture is a global culture. It's been a challenge. In terms of Bristol as a whole, I think if you talk about workforces coming in from all over, I think there's no short-term change in that. Bristol's been a negative unemployment market. If we wanted big warehouses, we'd be, as you say, up in Barnsley. When we're here, because this is where we kind of grew up and grew a business. And I think there will always be people looking to come into to work in an industrial environment. I don't think we've got a multitude workforce, some of who are a native Bristolian, and we're proud of them. But we're also proud people that have come from all over the world to work for us. But I'm just really saying that there will be migratory flow of people where there are jobs and where there's money associated with them. I think what we will see is, and what we've seen probably with the looming reduction of available work, but also the pound dropping meant lots of people weren't earning as much money to send home. But that was as much a bigger thing as whether they were allowed to be here or would be allowed to be here. And we're saying automation is obviously the natural route to that, but we also see automation because it's how we integrate our tech onto our operational floor. And we're slightly different in that we build most of our own kit. So our R&D has carried on. I found it amazing. I was talking to a tech business that I have a little bit of an interest in, and they furloughed their software developers.
Interesting.
Didn't we pushed ours to work harder and deliver quicker, so that when we come out of this, our code is leading the way. And if anything, it meant that we had a reason to push. And I think there are certain businesses that maybe took furlough in a different way to businesses that still had a business in the background.
I think you're absolutely right there, and I think that certainly resonates with us at the Access Group. I mean, 2,500 plus people. I think it's actually 2,700 and something now, and not one person furloughed. Which at the start of this, I just you almost assume that there's certain functions, certain roles that would be, and the view was taken that it's that scheme is there for people who need it, and actually we can see an opportunity here to do exactly what you've just said there, Paul, which is we don't need to batten down the hatches as such, but this is an opportunity to do some things that actually we would have liked to have done for a while, but the business as usual gets in the way. So those areas that automatically would have been quieter have actually really lent in, and out the back of this, if there's this U shape that we're all in, we're somewhere. We were coming into this U, and hopefully the U for us, by having not done that, is much, much lower, and we come out of that U shape much, much quicker, having not taken, or had the need to put some of those measures in place. So I think that makes perfect sense and definitely resonates. So I think just in summary then, in terms of a bit of a summary, a bit of a takeaway message. If somebody's watching this, today, 21st of July, 2020, if someone's watching this in 3 months, 2 months time and sort of thinks, do you know what, I'm in a similar industry, we've got an experienced CEO here, we've got the ear of, what advice would you be giving them for somebody starting out tomorrow in this industry? What would your advice be?
I would come back to agility and motivation. So if you can motivate your team to be, it's about looking at the triple bottom line. It's not about whether the business as a whole is making just a capitalist profit. It's about the well-being and motivation of your team, and their ability to think in an agile way is the way to go through anything. It's not just whether it's COVID or any other thing the business throws at you. And I genuinely think that applies probably for the last 10 years of the business as much as it will for the next 10 years. And hopefully, if they start to make money internationally, they can feed that back to their people wherever they are in the world, but here in the UK, and that's how the economy will get back on its feet.
Very good, very good. Okay, Paul Brown, CEO of MHI, thank you very much for joining us today, and we wish you all the best.
It was an absolute pleasure. Nice to meet you, Rob.
Thank you.